I tell people typically that I'm a sculptor, and they say, what do you do? And I say, oh, I sculpt a miniature, and they say, what's that? And we go iteratively through it. But I typically say miniatures, dioramas. I tend to make little scenes and environments that are often encased under glass or just sort of enclosed in some way. So there's almost these little sort of self-contained units, but they're typically dramas and they're very heavy on narrative. I started with miniatures and dioramas at a very, very young age. Like children often play with toys and action figures and those type of things, but I remember being 3 years old and actually making an environment for a penguin with Play-Doh and wood, and feeling that really intense feeling of having snow and water and putting the penguin in it. It suddenly was this whole world that opened up beyond just the toy. The ideas that I come up with for my work, they kind of come from anywhere, but they're typically something that I want to create, or I just want to see it, and I know that I have to make it to see it. So it may be just a note in a sketchbook or a quick sketch, and then I'm working with the sketchbook and drawing things out and saying, well, what if it was like this, and what if it was like this? So starting with a sketchbook and then working with the materials. I pull a lot of materials from model railroading stores, dollhouse makers, military modelers, and as well as hardware stores. So it's not uncommon for me to raid the hardware store for lumber and metal, and then go to art store for paper, and anything that can work gets used. I come back to a lot of themes that again and again, like isolation, separation, loss, burial or emergence, but a lot of it comes down to ambiguity. There may be a figure falling, but we can't tell if he's falling down or floating up. We can't tell if the house is sinking into the ground or emerging, and there's always sort of that captured frozen moment in between the two where we're not really sure where things are going to go. My piece in the Otherworldly show is something that I'm very excited about because it's something, thematically it's something that I've been working around and working through, but in terms of execution, it's something I've always wanted to do, work with the environment. And working with the wall is exciting, but working with the floor is much more so. I really feel with the scale that there's this intimacy there of working with the really small. You have this sort of like omnipresent sense when you're standing over these pieces that you're very, very powerful looking down into them. But at the same time, to interact with them, you have to get so close that there's an intimacy there. So there's this strange kind of push-pull with the viewer, and you really need to enter that world, and I think it does something quite magical, in that you really need to be pulled in to enjoy it.